So let me give you an example on inheritance. So I'm going to load my project over here in Visual Studio 2022. It's going to show a project that we already built. The project is basically doing in a hierarchy. We're going to begin with this class. This class is called person. And a person, let me expand it from here. A person basically has a first name, a last name, and a social security number. And we chose to represent these as properties. In C# properties, like these, the compiler is going to generate an auto backing field. So there's going to be a backing field for each one of these, and it's going to be private to this class. If you need more information, let me know in the comment section down. So again, this is person. We have the three properties. We have a default empty constructor. We have an argument constructor. We have this string method that returns get info, which is basically first name and some space, then last name, some space, and then the social security number. Now the second class I want to show is this class called employee. Employee is a class that inherits from person. So the way that we inherit, we write the name of the class, then colon over here, and then the base class. So this is the child class, and this is the parent class. Another name for the child is derived class. So we can call it child, derived, or even subclass. And this is called the parent class, the base class. And if you're coming from Java, this is called obviously the super class. Now, here's what's awesome about inheritance. We don't need to rewrite the whole thing. An employee will have a first name, a last name, and a social security, but we don't have to write that down because it inherits all of these guys over here. The first name, the last name, and the social. But the only thing that it needs is an employee ID, which we are representing in this property over here. And again, this guy has a constructor. This is the empty constructor. We have this one over here, and we have a third constructor, which basically gives you everything. I need to change and remove that. That was just for an example. This constructor over here, what it does, it takes the first name, last name, social security, employee ID. It sets the employee ID over here, but what it does, it calls the base constructor. The base constructor basically from person, first name, last name, and social. So if you right click over here and go to the definition, we're going to the definition of the person constructor, which is the argument constructor. So the previous three arguments are sent to the base over here. And here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you the rest of the hierarchy we have. From the employee, we have an hourly employee. An hourly employee is an employee with hours and rates. So they work for a number of hours with a rate, and we have this method returns a double. It's multiplication between multiplication of the hours with the rate over here. And the get info over here returns the same stuff that we have up there plus the get salary. Again, the get info for the employee, if I missed that, returns the first name, last name, social security, which is the same thing that we had with person, but returns also appends the employee ID. The hourly employee returns everything that we had in the employee plus the get salary. Yes, there's a smarter way of doing it. We're going to get to that. Now we have also the salaried employee. The salaried employee has a property that is only for salaried, particular to salaried employee, called net salary. And this net salary basically is, let me remove this line as well, is assigned over here in the constructor if you want, or because it's a property you can assign it. It has a set attribute to it, and the get info will return the net salary. Now what I want to show you is the following. I want to show you the class diagram for it in Visual Studio. So I'm going to right click on this guy on the project. So right click and add, and what we're going to add is a new item. So it's the first thing. So once we add that, we're going to get this window, and this window we have to choose the class diagram. Now not everybody's going to have the class diagram. You have to install it. You have to install it in Visual Studio Installer. So you go to individual components and you install the class diagram. I just leave the name as is, and once you add, you're going to get an empty workspace like this. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to drag the person all the way to the top. So I just dragged it from here and put it over here. And if you can see, this is person. It represents the class over here, then the section that has the attributes or the class fields. These are not class fields, these are properties. And then the section for the operations. Now, if I drag employee and put it underneath, what you're going to see is something really nice, which is employee inherits from. So this arrow is the inheritance arrow. and this is get that it inherits from, or there's a relationship in object oriented, we call it is a. So this is an employee is a person. Now the same thing goes over here, and look at it, guys. Look, an hourly employee is an employee is a person. We can also say an hourly employee is a person, because this is a transitive property, so we can jump again ahead on this guy and go and say this is a person, or an hourly employee is a person. And if I put this other class, let me put it down here or down over here, it's the same thing. A salaried employee is a person. We have to say a salaried employee is an employee, and an employee is a person, but a salaried employee is a person. So this is what's nice about it. So again, this relationship is inheritance. The inheritance relationship in any UML diagram, any UML class diagram, is basically with a full triangle arrow like this. The reason I'm saying this is that we have something else. Let's assume that hourly employees have types. So if you're working at some kind of school, at a university, at a college, so employee types, which I wrote over here in some kind of enum, it's either going to be a student support staff, a faculty support staff, or admin support staff, and I just wrote admin staff. And this is a public enumeration inside the same namespace that we have in our hourly employee. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to show you a trick. So I'm going to go to my diagram again, and I'm going to drag this guy over here. Okay, and I'm going to show you. So I want to make a relationship between these two. I want to say that an employee has, not is. So the difference is now I'm going to make a has a relationship. So an employee or an hourly employee has an employee type. And if you look at employee, the employee only has not employee and an hourly employee. If you look at hourly employee, they only have an hours and rate and whatever was inherited from employee over here. So how can I make this guy have this relationship? There's a bunch of ways, but I'm going to show it to you using the diagram. I'm going to go to view over here, and I'm going to show the toolbox. And this toolbox, one of the things, again, I went to toolbox. If I'm going too fast, I just went to this guy, the toolbox. And the toolbox, I have this kind of association, and I'm going to say the following. Let me put this in the middle. I'm going to get to this guy. I'm going to click on my mouse and drag all the way to arrow over here. So now the employee has employee type. I'm going to release my finger from the mouse, and we're going to get this arrow, which is different from this arrow. This is an association, basically, arrow that is different from, this is a relationship called inheritance, or is a relationship. Can you see this is a, is a, this has a. Now the nice thing about it, I'm going to go back to the H employee. And voila, look what we have, guys. We have this thing. So we have a new property called employee type that is inside our hourly employee. So now if we're going to go to the program over here and make, let's say, hourly employee, E2 is equal to new hourly employee. And we can put anything that we want in it. But I'm going to do the following. E2 dot employee type, for example, is equal to employee type dot, let's say, faculty support staff. So now I have a selection that I can make using the association with the object that has been created from hourly employee. So that's what's nice about it, guys. This is what's really awesome about it. Take it a step more. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new class. You know what? I'm going to add it from here. I'm going to add it from here. So add a new class over here. I'm going to call it address. So this address is going to represent some kind of address. I don't want it to be internal, actually. I want it to be public. And every address will have, let me do a property string. It's going to have a street with a capital S, and a city, and zip code, or state actually, and then zip code. So let me just change all of these. City, and over here state, and over here zip code with a capital C. And if I go to my let me save. If I go to my diagram, what I want to do right now is I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna drag this address and put it over here, and as you can see, there's an address. Now, why am I doing this? Because a person or a salaried employee has an address, but when you think about it, the hourly employee has an address. In fact, every person has an address. We're assuming nobody's homeless over here. This is utopia, guys. So what am I supposed to do? I can do the following. I can do an association, and I said, well, this address, the abstraction of the idea of address applies on a person, regardless of who inherits from a person. So I'm going to press the mouse, I'm going to drag all the way over here, and this is going to say a person has an address. Now, why is that awesome? Because if I go right now to my person, which is this guy, double click on it, you can see that now I have a new property that represents whatever I did. So if I go to my program and I want to say person over here dot address dot street is equal to 123 Broadway Street, I can do that, guys. So now I have a new property. Not only that, if I want to go to my employee e2 dot address dot city, for example, equal to Victoria, I can do that, because again, an hourly employee inherits from employee, which inherits from person. So this is just a simple example on inheritance for this video. If you have any questions, any comments, there's a lot of stuff I did not cover. Let me know in the comments section, and I'll make another video for it. Thank you for watching.